Hey guys, it's Sebastian, and today we are in Hong Kong. Before you click off of this video, this isn't a vlog video. We have a separate channel for that, Sebby Fung. So if you want to check that out, go over there. Today we are going to talk about the Discover It card and the 5x back categories for the whole of 2019. So one good thing about Discover is that they do announce their stuff a lot earlier, meaning that you can plan ahead. Today we are going to look at each of the quarters and then again talk about some other things afterwards that you might want to consider. So starting off quarter one, we have grocery stores. So this one is relatively straightforward and it just really depends on how you want to play it and the other cards that you have. So even if you have something like the Amex Gold card, it might make sense to use this if you are someone who cares more about cash back, and especially if you are in your first year due to cash back match, meaning that the 5% back is really 10% back. So again, just depends on how you want to play it. If you're someone with a lot of options, or if you're someone who wants to hit that $1,500 cap in order to maximize the 5x back, the 5% back, then it might make sense to look into gift cards. The ones that I would recommend looking at are going to be the store branded ones, just because there's no fees there. And again, the idea is that you're pre-buying gift cards for places that you're already going to spend money. One thing I kind of skimmed, but I think people might be a bit confused about, is when I say a $1,500 cap, that is the amount for each of the quarters where you're going to get the 5% back, or again, 10% back for the match. And then after that, it's only going to be 1%. For me personally, I end up typically buying Trader Joe's gift cards or any other grocery store that you go to, just because throughout the year, you're probably going to get value back. One thing I'd be careful with though is not to go overboard, just because if you are someone who doesn't really spend that much on groceries, it doesn't really make sense to buy $1,500. The main reason is because you don't really want to lock in too much of your liquidity into something that is like a gift card. My recommendation is to typically probably buy about 6 months, maybe 12 months, depending on your circumstances, but I wouldn't go out and buy 2 years worth of grocery gift cards. I think it's just not really worth it. One of the big reasons being that you might move, and again, your taste might change, so you don't want to have to be sitting on something that you don't end up using. If you're not a big grocery person, then again, there are a lot of other store branded gift cards. So Gap, Banana Republic, everything, and pretty much anything else under the moon typically work. Depending on your location, you might not be able to buy these gift cards using credit cards though, so your mileage may vary depending on where you live. For quarter number two, we have gas stations, Uber, as well as Lyft. So this one is also relatively straightforward because gas plays very similar to grocery stores, so I'm not really going to go through it too much. You can buy gift cards for that specific gas station brand, which I know a lot of people do, and also many gas stations also sell gift cards to other stores. And then there's also some 7-Eleven stores that will also sell gift cards as well to these other stores. So the same exact strategies that we talked about for grocery stores apply. 7-Elevens are a very your mileage may vary situation, just because some of them do not code as gas stations. So my recommendation is that early on in the quarter, go buy something small that you would otherwise buy anyways. So if you're buying a candy bar or something else, and then look at how it codes to make sure that you're actually getting that 5% back. The main reason is because you don't want to buy $1,500 in gift cards and then find out that you're only really getting 1%. From my understanding, 7-Elevens internally in their system are built to take credit cards for gift cards. The main thing that you have to kind of beat is the person who's taking the order, who you're paying, just because a lot of them, if they feel that it's sketchy, they'll tell you that no, that's not okay, or it might just be their store policy, depending on the specific location. So again, if they say no, if you try again a few times and they still say no, then either look into a different store or just write it off. Uber and Lyft are pretty straightforward. If you are someone who lives in the city, if you don't have a car like a lot of people in certain cities, then it makes a lot of sense. I know a lot of people who spend probably about $100 a month anyways in order to either get to work or get from work, or just to get around, especially during Fridays and weekends. Moving on to Q3, we have restaurants. So this is going to be summertime because it is Q3, so July, August, and September. So it works out pretty well. And again, a lot of places in my experience do take Discover. Some places might not, but they're also going to be places that probably just only take Visa in my experience at least. So your mileage may vary there. For this one, the best strategy is going to be a Venmo Martyr. So the idea is that you're the person paying for the group meal, as long as you know that everyone is going to pay you back and not going to screw you over, then you are in a pretty good position. You also have kind of a problem though if a lot of your friends are into credit cards, so it is kind of a balancing act because otherwise you're fighting everyone for the bill. Kind of a side tip, but the more that you are able to pay for expenses that you get reimbursed for, whether it's group meals or whether you're a consultant paying for hotel travel and then getting reimbursed for it, the better, because that helps you increase your spend in order to hit these minimum spends. For this one, you could also buy gift cards, but again, the same strategy applies. You don't want to go overboard here, especially for food. You want to probably stay in the 3 to 6 month range, or maybe even less. So I would be very hesitant to buy 1 year's worth of gift cards to, let's say, Chipotle, because at a certain point, you're going to start hating it. At least with groceries, you can kind of mix it up. You can buy different things. You can make your own food. But with Chipotle, with all these other places, I don't know. I feel like I might get a bit sick. For Q4, we have Amazon, and to me, this is the only one that is a bit dangerous if you are not careful. And the main reason is because for a lot of people, when they look into Amazon, they tend to buy electronics and other big purchases, and Discover does not currently have extended warranty and a lot of the other benefits that we talk about of credit cards right now with their cards. So you wouldn't want to buy big purchases in terms of big electronics. You would only really want to buy things where you don't want to rely on return protection or extended warranty. For me, my general strategy in these quarters is to load up on Amazon gift cards just because I can use them out throughout the year, and then I tend to use it for transactions that I just don't really care too much about. So if I need to buy a new USB-C cable because I killed the last one, this works out pretty well. If I need to buy a new battery pack, anything that I'm not going to rely on the extended warranty, I'm not too worried. But if I was buying, let's say, a new drone, so like a new DJI Mavic Pro, then I'm not going to use this card because I would rather use something like American Express where I have that extended warranty. Obviously, it's a balancing act, but for stuff like that, I just want to make sure that I'm covered in the long term, that any freak accidents or if the thing just decides to die out of its own volition, then I'm not going to get screwed. As a side note, if you don't know what I'm talking about in terms of extended warranty and return protection and stuff like that, we do have a ton of other videos going through a lot of those perks. I probably do need to refresh those videos for 2018 just because things have changed, but again, a lot of stuff is covered over there. One other thing too is that if you're never sure about anything, I'd spend like maybe 2 or 3 minutes looking at the terms just because I think that's worth a check anyways, and that's kind of being a bit more concrete to make sure that what I'm saying is right for certain things. Looking at the chart, pretty straightforward, and they're relatively familiar categories that we've seen before. So I feel like for most of these category things, we pretty much just see the same things over and over again, and it's more so just planning it out along with your cards. The more interesting thing to me is how Chase is going to respond, just because they have been releasing their quarters a bit differently. So for 2018, for example, we have seen a lot of duplicate quarters, so I'm gonna be curious whether that continues in the future because it is kind of a good competition move on them, but not as useful for us. As a side note, if you are someone who has a player too, and again, let's say they don't care about dealing with all of these quarters, a really good trick that I've heard people mention is to buy a label maker and then literally just label on the specific categories for that quarter. So like, let's say mentioning 01 to 03, and then groceries or whatever specific categories it is. In case you're wondering why Chase doesn't release the whole chart, my guess is because they need to in order to stay competitive, just because they have taken away a lot of benefits. In the past, Discover probably had one of the best cards in terms of protections, and all of those protections are pretty much gone. So for them, the most competitive stuff they have right now is that they are pretty good in terms of the first card for people because it's easy to get, and then the cashback match, making a lot of purchases 10% in year 1, and that's kind of it. So again, a lot of the long-term protections are gone. So by releasing this charts, they're allowing a lot more transparency, they're giving a lot more information, helping people make better choices, which is good. But I feel like, again, they need to kind of throw that bone in order to at least look a bit better. So I hope that was helpful. Let me know if you guys have any questions. My question for you guys is, which of these quarters do you like? Which ones do you hate? So I know some people are going to love Q1 and Q2 or something, and some will hate Q4 or really like Q4 because either they shop at Amazon a lot or they hate Amazon. So let me know in the comments down below your experience, your thoughts, and everything else. As kind of a side question, if you want to kind of dive into it, let me know what you think of Discover as well, just because I have seen a lot of different opinions. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, it really helps us out. And if you know anyone else who'd benefit from what we just talked about, feel free to share this video with them. because it's probably going to help them out. But otherwise, hope you guys liked it. See you guys next time.